What up, what up, what up, YouTube? It's your boy Street from the L.V.K. coming at you with another reaction video right here, right now. No more further delay. If y'all hear weird noises in the background when I'm talking, it's because it's been raining for like the last 2 hours. And it's been windy all day, so if you hear that as well, my bad. I can't control the weather. So we're gonna jump into some true crime, cold case, solved story. Shout out to Ewu, explore with us, because they have some great content and they're not boring or annoying to listen to. Family who disappeared found trapped inside a secret room locked for 9 years. So without further ado, like, comment, subscribe, share. Run those likes up like my boy L says. And let's get into it. That was corny as hell. Just want y'all to know I know that.
What is up, Ewu crew?
What up, man?
Today we will be covering 3 unbelievable cases of people discovered in extremely bizarre places that will leave you absolutely speechless. If you enjoy true crime, mysteries, and true stories, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Now, let's get into it. The first story we are going to be covering today is that of Sandile Sibiya. It is never a particularly fun experience to break or sprain a limb. Of course, the most painful part of breaking an arm or a leg is the pain from the break itself. But the second most painful part is, admittedly, the trip to the hospital to get the break taken care of. Waiting in sitting rooms can feel like forever. Getting an X-ray can take far longer than one would like, and the actual process of having an injury put in a cast can be both tedious and uncomfortable. These were likely the thoughts that Sandile Sibiya was having on May 10th, 2019, when he accidentally hurt his right leg and realized that a trip to the hospital was in order. Sandile, a construction worker and local of Durban, South Africa, ended up heading to Durban's Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Hospital in the early afternoon in quite a bit of pain. When he arrived, he predictably waited his turn in the hospital's sitting room, like any other prospective patient. After what felt like an excessive waiting period, Sandile was finally seen by a doctor and ultimately taken in for an X-ray. His X-ray came back showing that he had a broken femur and that he would definitely need further medical treatment.
Ooh, man, dude, a femur as a grown adult male or a grown adult, from what I've heard, your femur bone is stronger than a slab of cured concrete. So to break your femur bone is a lot of pressure on that bone,
At the time, the staff at Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Hospital had instructed Sandile to stay overnight for a few days, until he could be properly treated. In fact, Sandile was set to be transferred to another nearby facility, Addington Hospital, to see a proper orthopedic doctor for his cast application. That is, if he made it that long. When the time came for Sandile's transfer, hospital staff approached the injured man's room with his paperwork in tow. But when they entered, Sandile Sibiya was nowhere to be found.
Where'd he go?
Hospital staff immediately set out in search across the facility for Sandile, assuming that he could not have gotten very far with a severely injured leg. After checking on every floor of the building and looking into every other patient's room, the staff was dumbfounded at the notion that Sandile seemed to have vanished into thin air. But how could a man with a very obviously broken leg have made it all the way out of a secure hospital building? Sandile's disappearance appeared to make no sense to anyone working in Mahatma Gandhi Memorial, so staff were quick to report the man officially missing to local authorities. The South African Police Department opened a missing persons case immediately for Sandile, and authorities across Durban set out on a small-scale search for him. Unfortunately, Despite search efforts, not a single person could locate any sign of Sandile. A variety of theories arose surrounding Sandile's mysterious disappearance, but none sounded feasible, and no one had any information to work with to determine why Sandile would have gone missing in the first place. Back at the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Hospital, staff could not help but be incredibly concerned for Sandile's well-being. They were meant to help treat his right femur, and he somehow managed to disappear right under their noses.
Somebody
And
has
perhaps
to
that is exactly where they should have checked. Ultimately, it was the smell that gave it away. According to KZN Health MEC Nomagugu Simelani Zulu, on May 24, 2019, just 10 days after Sandile had originally come into the hospital, something was terribly wrong. Nomagugu stated, quote, "An unbearable stench intensified at the hospital, and eventually it led to the storeroom where fluid dropping from the ceiling provided the telltale signs that something was amiss." As the stench began to spread throughout the entirety of the hospital building, hospital staff decided to investigate its source themselves. What they found completely shocked them. When hospital staff finally stumbled upon the storeroom that the horrid smell was emanating from, they cautiously pushed up against the ceiling tiles. When they lifted their flashlights into the space to have a look around, they came face to face with a decomposing body. The body of Sandile Sibiya.
What the hell?
When the Mahatma Gandhi Memorial Hospital staff reported the discovered body to local police and positively identified him as the man who had mysteriously disappeared from the hospital almost 2 weeks before, questions arose surrounding the context of Sandile's death. Sandile, despite his broken femur, was an incredibly healthy 53-year-old man who was more than capable of taking care of himself. So, how did he end up dead in a hospital ceiling? The hospital itself assured local citizens and police personnel that their facility had impeccably tight security measures in place, with security guards in every unit of the hospital grounds. In fact, they even asserted that the only way runaway patients would be able to slip past security within the hospital grounds is if they were to change into civilian clothing during the busiest parts of the hospital's visiting hours. And yet, Sandile was found decomposing inside the ceiling of a room only accessible to hospital staff.
Ooh,
When the investigation into Sandile's disappearance and subsequent death began, many officials believed that Sandile had actually been one of the hospital's mentally ill patients.
Bro, I've been to like very nice hospitals, like really, really nice hospitals. And I've been to really, really crappy hospitals, and they have all had security cameras everywhere I looked. Why didn't they ask for the security camera footage? Did they not have security cameras at the Gandhi hospital, or what?
In fact, early reports of Sandile's initial discovery even went so far as to report that Sandile had actually been a mental patient before his disappearance, which was eventually proved to be false by the hospital. Throughout the investigation, officials were adamant that they would take the strongest possible action should anyone be found guilty of any form of wrongdoing. Despite this, Sandile's death still remains a mystery, and the way his body ended up in the ceiling panels of the very same hospital he came to for help just days before his death is also still completely unknown. The second bizarre case we have for you today.
Wait. That's it. Like, see, I don't like stories like this because now it's like, now you got more questions than answers, and you have more questions than possible answers. You have too many, like, thoughts running through your mind. You have too many, like, scenarios playing on your head. Like, how did this dude end up in the roof from a room that was only accessible by staff? You ain't got no key cards, no codes to enter. Like, that sounds like a cover up, but that man wasn't anybody important like that, man. Like, he was he like, y'all gonna claim he's gonna be crazy? And then, oh man, that irritates the hell out of me, man. That dude died. And nobody's being held responsible, and it seems like they don't care, dude. Like, for real.
Brian Egg. Brian Egg was born and raised in San Francisco and spent the majority of the later years of his life living in San Francisco's South of Market neighborhood, after having spent some of his youth working as a bartender at the legendary gay bar, The Stud. Brian's family resided just outside of the Soma neighborhood and visited with Brian every so often when their respective schedules lined up properly.
Well, makes sense, yeah.
When visiting each other was not particularly feasible, Brian and his brother would simply give each other a call on the phone to discuss the recent events of their lives. One thing was certain between Brian and his family. Communication was a crucial part of maintaining their strong familial relations. In late May or early June of 2018, Brian hadn't had much time to speak with his family, as it seemed as though everyone's lives were pointing in different directions. In response, Brian decided to help out his community more frequently during his own free time. Brian was known to clean up some of the alleyways in his Soma neighborhood.
That's respect, though, man.
Chance, and he was actually seen doing so over one particular weekend.
Yo, on a side note, man, like, so I live in a very small town, right? And we don't have a trash company that comes around house to house to pick up our trash. We literally take our trash to the dump, which is, like 5 minutes away, right? And was it yesterday? I want to say it was yesterday. I was doing a trash run, and I was going, and I had cut through a shortcut of mine that I go through, and as I turned, my headlights hit a couple boxes, and for being out in the middle of nowhere, like, this area doesn't have that much trash flying around. Even by the dump, there's not that much trash flying around. So I was like, whatever, man. Turn around, I picked it up. I parked right by the One Piece, and then I looked around. I saw another box over there, and I went and picked it up, threw it in the car, and went and took it to the dump, man. So it's like, what that man does, I respect him for it, because it's your community. You want to keep your community clean and nice and orderly, man. It keeps everything good. Your neighborhood morale is good if you have a clean neighborhood. That's why it's like when people cut their grass, other people start cutting their grass and doing yard work, because it's like that cleanliness and that manicureness, it's effective, it's addictive. It's like, yeah. So you know how they say yawns spread? Like, if I yawn, then you'll yawn, and then you'll yawn, and then you'll yawn. The same way it works with, like, for men, at least. I don't know about women, because I can't speak for women, because I'm not a woman. But for a lot of men, it's like, if I'm out there cutting my grass, and my neighbor's out there, and his grass looks a little long, he's going to be like, street's not going to have a better grass than I am. But, screw that. So they'll go cut their grass, and they'll trim it. And that's just how it happens. That's how it's always happened, for me, at least. I don't know about y'all, but yeah, let's go back to this Brian guy.
After he had finished picking up trash in his neighborhood, he had apparently gone back into his house, according to his neighbors. And that was the last time anyone ever saw Brian Egg alive.
Can we trust those neighbors, though?
In late June or early July of the same year, just around a month after Brian's neighbors had reportedly seen the 65-year-old man tidying up the neighborhood, Brian's brother Devin tried to call Brian in order to catch up on their recent life events. When Devin called Brian's home phone number, however, he was met with an answering machine requesting he leave a message.
Well, that's how answering machines
There were
work.
two things strikingly wrong about the answering machine picking up Devin's call. One, Brian almost always answered his phone and had never used an answering machine in his life. And two, the voice on the machine was most definitely not that of his brothers.
Brother would know that
checked the
too.
number he had dialed to confirm that he had, in fact, called the correct number. After noting that it belonged to his brother's phone, Devin attempted to call once more. This time, Devin was not met with the sound of an answering machine. This time, someone picked up. According to Devin, a man who gave his name as Nate allegedly answered Brian's phone and asked whom he was speaking to. Devin explained that he was Brian's brother and was trying to reach Brian at his phone number. Nate assured Devin that his brother would call him back shortly, and that Brian was simply outside taking his dog on a walk around the neighborhood. As strange as the situation sounded, Devin nonetheless found himself waiting for his brother to give him a call back.
Nope. If I have a brother, I don't have any brothers, but if I had a brother, or me and my sisters, man, even my good friends that I call my brothers, if I call them once, twice, both answer machines, they don't even have answer machines, and the third time somebody picks up, and on the answer machines, it's not their voice, and then I call somebody, I call my brother again, and a dude picks up, and his name is Nate. He's like, yeah, your brother's walking his dog, he'll call you back in a minute. Like, all right, okay, who are you? Click. Nope, I'm headed that way, and there ain't no cop in the world that's gonna stop me from figuring out what the hell's going on. Especially if I talk to my brother on a regular basis, or my sister, and they had never mentioned the person Nate ever. Nope, no way, dude. It's not gonna fly. That's a grounded plane right there, because it's not going nowhere. That story has one hole in it, and it's a massive hole.
Unfortunately, that call would never come.
I figured that much.
Devin was not entirely worried about his brother's odd behavior, as it was possible that Brian was simply busy or had made new friends who he hadn't met. But by late July of 2018, it became evident to Brian's neighbors that the man seemed to be missing. You see, Brian was one of the few members of the Soma neighborhood who was familiar with almost everyone else.
So he
when
was
multiple
one of those
neighbors
people.
realized that they had not seen Brian for quite some time, word started to spread fast, and a variety of people became extremely worried for the man's well-being. Police received multiple calls from Brian's neighbors stating their concern regarding the fact that Brian may have been missing or seriously injured inside his home. Officers decided to take the time to check out Brian's home and see if the man was in need of some assistance. However, every time the police came by, Brian was nowhere to be found. More so than that, no one ever answered the door.
Kick it in!
For one reason or another, police determined that Brian must have gone out of town without letting any of his neighbors know.
Or his family?
Because of these assumptions, the police appeared not too concerned about Brian's apparent disappearance.
See, man, that's the police system failing you, man. And you guys wonder why people don't call the cops. Because, look, there's a general concern. This man is 65 years old. You guys knocked on his door plenty of times and nobody answers. Go get that manager. Open that damn door. Use your boot. Use your door kicking in skills and figure out if there was foul play involved in that apartment. Talk to the brother. Be like, yeah, some dude named Nate answered his phone one time. Said he'll call me back. And he ain't never called me back, man. Kick that door in. I'll pay for the damages. You know what I mean? Like something like, no, that's the system failing people. And you guys, if people wonder why people take matters into their own hands, it's because that failed. That was a clear failure of their job. Like, protect and serve. Protect and serve. Serve that door and ass kicking and open it with your foot. Or get the manager and have him open that door and be like, we need to do a real welfare check on this 65-year-old man. Everybody knows him in the neighborhood and they ain't seen him. His brother called, a weird dude answers, nobody's seen him. Are you kidding me? You're just gonna say he just got up and left? Man. Now I'm pissed. One of these stories better be happy ending.
The residents of the Soma neighborhood, however, felt far differently. One of Brian's longtime neighbors, Scott Free, decided to take to social media to spread word of Brian's possible disappearance.
And that should not have to happen. That should not have to happen. The police kicked in the damn door, or they had that door get opened for a true welfare check. That would not have to happen by a neighbor, man. A neighbor is doing more work than the police.
As he and his other neighbors were concerned that the police were not taking their claims seriously.
Right?
After
Seems
Scott's
like it.
posts about Brian started to circulate, many other neighbors who knew Brian added fuel to the fire by stating that they were also worried about the man. Collectively, the neighborhood came to an agreement and vowed to keep an eye on Brian's home and stay on the lookout for any suspicious activity.
That's all they
or,
can
ultimately, any sign of Brian.
Hands are tied.
With all eyes on Brian's home, it was only a matter of time before his Soma neighborhood noticed something particularly out of place. Neighbors claimed to see two strangers to the neighborhood frequently coming and going from Brian's home. No one in the neighborhood had ever seen the two young men before, but they were positive that Brian had no relation to them whatsoever. The residents of Soma found themselves once again trying to convince local San Francisco police to look into Brian's disappearance.
I'm not gonna like how this ends.
Though their efforts alone seemed to be rather unsuccessful, Brian's sister also became concerned about the fact that no one in their family had heard from Brian in months. So, after multiple calls from both Soma neighbors and Brian's own family, a few officers decided to stop by Brian's house once more on August 4th.
That is bullcrap, man. That dude went missing between the end of May and the beginning of June. And it is August 4th. The San Francisco Police Department failed that family.
When police
That's
knocked
it,
on the
dude.
front door,
Fight me,
they
I don't
were
care.
once again met with silence.
Kick it in.
According to Brian's neighbors, the two men they had seen appeared to be homeless and seemed to be living inside of Brian's house for quite some time.
Waters, bro.
Which partially explained the fact that no one in the neighborhood had seen Brian recently. Though the two strangers had not answered the door, nor spoke to police, neighbors saw a significant difference in the state of Brian's home after the officers' third attempt at checking in.
Third attempt?
Just hours after police left Brian's home, neighbors claimed they watched an obscene amount of soap suds leak out from under the door. In addition to the soap, neighbors said that when they approached Brian's house, they could smell the strong scent of bleach. After the end of what they claim appeared to be an extremely deep home cleaning session, the strangers from Brian's house were even reportedly seen painting over a section of the front of the home.
Bro, that's a cover-up. SFPD dropped the ball, let it roll, and it ended up all the way in freaking San Diego, dude.
Including part of the front door, as if to cover something up.
Blood.
On August 7th, Brian's
DNA.
sister officially reported Brian missing. And by August 14th, the Soma residents ended up calling police yet again after reportedly seeing a private crime scene cleanup company parked outside of Brian's home for an extended period of time. This time, police responded to the neighbors' claims right away and dispatched a variety of officers to Brian's house. There, officers were able to arrest one of the two strangers who the police report stated had been cohabitating in Brian's home for nearly 2 months. The police report stated that the man was 52-year-old Robert McCaffrey, who Brian's neighbors said had at least $1,000 in cash on hand that they alleged he was going to use to pay the crime scene cleanup company. Just 2 days later, police were able to locate who they said was the other alleged person of interest in Brian's disappearance, 39-year-old Lance Silva, and subsequently arrested him in a nearby residential hotel.
I know that name. How do I know that name? Lance Silva. Lance Silva. I know that name. But I can't figure out how I know that name. Oh, it's gonna irk me.
Upon both men being arrested and interviewed, police charged both men with ID theft and financial crimes, as it was alleged that Robert and Lance had used Brian's credit cards to possibly purchase a car. One thing that was still unclear to investigators at the time was Brian's whereabouts. In the hours after Robert and Lance's initial arrests, police returned to Brian's home to thoroughly search for clues regarding Brian's whereabouts. That is, if he was still alive.
Yeah,
on
y'all
August
dropped the ball about
17, 2018, after 4 days of searching the home, police discovered something they never saw coming. Inside Brian's home was a storage room located directly under a staircase. When police opened up the storage room, they were immediately met with an unbearable stench. Inside was one singular fish tank hidden away out of sight. It was then that investigators noticed that there was something peculiar stuffed inside of the fish tank. It was the torso of a body that had been beheaded and had its hands removed.
Bro. Tell me Tell me they screwed up this case that bad. Tell me they screwed this case up that bad. I pray it's not Brian. I hope he's not the victim. I hope it's just it's not the star of this show, of this particular episode. And it's a body used for medical science. It was already dead. It was donated. It was cool, you know? But if it is Brian, I hope that family nearly bankrupted the San Francisco Police Department because they dropped that ball, dude. Oh man, I hate incompetent police departments. And right now, SFPD is a freaking incompetent police department, man. I am getting so worked up, dude. Oh man.
The gruesome body was all that was left of Brian Egg.
Ow!
Brian's death was ultimately ruled a homicide by a San Francisco medical examiner, and both Robert and Lance were charged with homicide, identity theft, elder abuse, and various financial crimes.
The goddamn police need to be charged too. The cops who failed to do their job need to be not taking this claim seriously. They need to be charged guilty by association. If I'm with somebody and they shoot somebody and I could go to jail because that dude shot that other dude, those cops need to face the same repercussions that Brian and Lance faced, dude. F that, bro. No, man. For real. Where's their accountability? I learned about something watching one of TMG's videos about accountability or something. I don't know what it was called. But it's how cops get away with breaking the law because it's BS or something. I don't know. I have to go watch it, man. I had to do something with a Lamborghini in California. Once again, there we go.
Despite this, the San Francisco District Attorney's Office eventually ended up dropping all of the charges against both men, pending further investigation. Robert was ultimately freed, and Lance ended up being held in jail in Alameda County for a parole violation. But ultimately, Lance too was freed from jail. To this day, no one has been deemed guilty in court for Brian Egg's gruesome death. And over a year after Brian's dismembered body was found stuffed into a chemical-filled fish tank in his own home, his killer or killers remain at large.
I am so irked right now, man. I was cold. I really was cold. But see, this is the BS. This is the BS that has a whole country up in arms right now about defund the police. It's because of crap like this, dude. This and unjustified shootings, and the cops get a 2-week paid vacation and they're back on the freaking road, do it again. Like, I don't get it. How come there is not stronger accountability for the people who are supposed to uphold the law? I don't get it, dude. Like, how come these cops are able to still walk? How come are these people, like, you have enough evidence to prosecute them, man? They were living there. They were cleaning up they were painting and cleaning and bleaching and soap bubble galore. And they were using his credit cards. Who uses a live man's credit cards in the same city that man lived in? Nobody. Or a dumb criminal. But if that man's dead, how's he gonna file false charges, man? How's he gonna call it? This isn't me. He can't because he's dead. And these cops did not take it seriously. They dropped the ball. I think the brother should have called right away and said, "Hey, something's fishy going on with my brother, but you know what? He was told your brother will call you back, and you have to take that word." But then again, like, who the hell are you? I'm just a paranoid dude in general. Like, if I call my boy's phone and my boy don't answer, like, who's this? Oh, what up, bro? Like, who's this? Who? Yo, put on, woo woo. You know what I mean? Like, like this whole story just irked me, man. I was cold. I really was. I'm gonna tell you what the temperature is during the next story.
Finally, the last case we have for you today is one that involves a lot of secrecy and plenty of unanswered
Better be
questions.
a happy ending, Ewu.
In the ruins of Rheinavold in the Netherlands, day-to-day life has almost always been extremely consistent. Rheinavold is a place where everyone knows everyone, and rumors spread like wildfire when gossip starts. At least the most interesting ones do. The residents of Rheinavold tend to keep to themselves for the most part, but are nonetheless familiar with the different lives being lived in the areas around them.
Bro, I told you to tell you what the temperature is, alright? It is 38 degrees right now. The real feel is 27, and it's telling me light rain. Y'all hear this? It is not light rain. What is their definition of light rain? Man, I'm from Vegas. Light rain is a heavy shower. Woo! Sorry, we're gonna get to this Rheinvold, whatever.
Or at least they thought they were. In October of 2020, a local Dutch cafe called De Kastelein welcomed a new customer for the first time in a long time. As Rheinavold was a primarily rural farm town, cafes like De Kastelein did not often see the likes of tourists. And when they did, the tourists did not act as strange as the young man who had come to visit on that fateful day in early October. The cafe staff described the man as rather scrawny and said that he seemed almost incapable of making and keeping eye contact with anyone he spoke with. At first, it was not clear to anyone else in the cafe if the young man could even speak their language, until he eventually spoke up to place his order. When he did speak, the man ordered 5 pints of beer that he intended to drink alone.
Party up!
When the cafe staff brought him his order, the young man downed all 5 beers in one go, leaving everyone around him curious as to what had brought the man here.
Touché.
And why he seemed to be acting so very strange.
Yeah, 5 beers, man.
The cafe closed shortly after the run-in with the thirsty young man, and the cafe staff assumed they would never see him again. However, the very next evening, the young man came back to the same cafe, acting just as strange as he had the night before. The staff eyed the young man closely, as it appeared that there was something he desperately wanted to say, though he remained silent. Until, finally, he cracked. The cafe staff continued striking up conversations with the young man, as there was something so peculiar about the way he acted. Everyone assumed something was off, but they couldn't tell what it was. Prompted by the curiosity and concern of the cafe staff and the beer in his belly, the strange young man blurted out something he knew was meant to be kept a secret.
What do you think it is? 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 I think that's the killer. Or the bad guy in the story. I think the dude who drank too much acted weird. I think he might be the bad guy in the story. Let's see.
According to the De Castelline Cafe owner, Chris Westerbeek, the young man, quote, said he had not been outside for 9 years. Later, he also said that he had 4 brothers and 1 sister who lived on the farm. He was the oldest and wanted to put an end to the way they lived.
Oh, corkscrew twisted. Look. Yeah, you see that? That's a screw. That's what that guy just did. All those little curves. Yep, all of them. That's what he just did. I give up. Fuck these damn stories.
At first, Chris and the other employees from the cafe did not know how to handle the information they had gathered from the strange young man. Some of the staff speculated that the man could just be out of his mind, or even alleged he could be on some kind of drug. But others saw the desperation in the young man's face and believed that he was truly scared for his own well-being, even if his claims seemed wildly outlandish in their small village. Chris decided to stay cautious and call local Rheinavold police to look into the young man's strange and concerning claims. When he did so, he had no idea what would come of it. When asked further questions about his circumstances, the young man allegedly claimed he had been inside for 9 years because of some kind of religion or a cult, but nothing more. The next day, following Chris Westerbeek's concerned call to police, authorities acted on the complaint and visited the house on the Buitenhuizerweg. When they arrived on the plot of land, they were shocked to discover what was going on just inside of a farmhouse that local residents passed by every single day.
That was a pretty house.
The house was situated over 200 yards from the nearest road and 100 yards from the nearest building, which meant people passing by couldn't easily see what was happening. Inside the farmhouse, on the ground floor, was a small room that officers had initially assumed to be empty. When they took a look inside, however, they were taken aback at what they found. Police said that inside the small room, they found multiple people, an entire family. Upon being questioned by police, every single member of the family claimed that they were all over 18 years old and adults, though none of them could give police any straight answers as to why they were all cramped into a single room. Police noted that there were 6 people living in seclusion on the farm, in addition to 25-year-old Jan, who had been the first and only member of the hidden family to escape into town in over 9 whole years.
What?
Jan was the weary stranger at the De Castellane Cafe who had been nervous and uneasy to tell anyone the truth surrounding his circumstances.
What the hell?
Upon their discovery, police learned that all 6 of the people hidden away in the farmhouse were actually between the ages of 12 and 15, not 18 as they had originally claimed.
What?
They appeared to have been taught to lie about their age if they were ever discovered. Though some of them were not very willing to leave the premises, police had all 6 of the children taken into police care and ensured that they were all immediately seen by a doctor to gauge their health. Police were initially uncertain as to whether or not the family had been living in the farmhouse voluntarily, and, more pressingly, how they came to be there in the first place. Later into the investigation, the police report stated that all 6 of the children who had been hidden away in the farmhouse had never actually been included in the official registers, meaning that they had allegedly been born in secret and kept completely away from the rest of society.
How do you do that?
Police were quick in tracking down who they believed was the father of the 6 children, 67-year-old Gerrit Jan van D. Gerrit was taken into custody, but only after investigators alleged that he had not been alone in purportedly keeping his children in isolation. Police said they tracked down an Austrian man by the name of Joseph B., who locals had known as an odd jobs man who had rented the farmhouse. It is alleged by investigators that the two men were running what they referred to in the police report as some kind of doomsday cult with no connection to the outside world. The BBC reported that over the years, Garrett is believed to have allegedly mistreated most of the children, though none of the children ended up filing any kind of formal complaints against their father or Yosef. As the investigation went on, police learned that Garrett actually had 3 older daughters who had managed to leave the home before the family reportedly withdrew from society. Upon the police's discovery of his alleged cult formation, Garrett was also reportedly charged with money laundering, unlawful detention, and more. Yosef B. was charged and is suspected of kidnapping and money laundering. According to authorities, quote, both Garrett and Yosef knew very well what they were doing was punishable by law, and Garrett Van D was the evil genius, but Yosef B was his partner in crime. During the trial, it was revealed that investigators claimed to have found evidence that the children were mistreated while at the farm. The prosecution alleged that the children were required to pray for weeks at a time, and on occasion were reportedly only given water to drink and nothing to eat.
What?
At trial, many of the children stated that they had been purportedly physically punished by Garrett in various ways, which they described as being hit with sticks to being forced to sit in ice baths until they lost consciousness. The prosecution also reported that the children were allegedly punished in order to drive out bad spirits, or when Garrett believed that they had been unclean. Police said that they found evidence of such claims also reported in Garrett's own diary entries, which were obtained during the investigation. The investigation into the strange circumstances surrounding the family's isolation is still underway to this day.
I love when criminals write down their crap, dude. How'd you find that out? Well, you wrote it down, dummy. How'd you know I did that? Well, you kind of wrote it and you put a date on it. And then they want to act surprised. I would never do that. Dude, I have your handwriting. It's right here in this book. Blah. Stupid. I love when they incriminate themselves with their own journals. I want to say it's a pleasure book. Like people with the right mind, we call them journals and diaries and stuff. But I think that's how they're able to relive that pleasure that they got. Like whatever's wrong with their head, they're like, yeah. And then they read it and they're like, yeah, they feel like invigorated, or they feel like recharged or something, and they're just like, this, it's not a diary to them, it's not a journal to them, it's literally a pleasure book. It's what they did and they got pleasure out of it. That's what I believe. I don't know. This video is way too long as it is.
Both Yosef and Garrett remain in police custody, while investigators attempt to have a better understanding of what exactly took place at the farm over the course of the last 9 years. In the meantime, Jan and the children are currently adjusting to the outside world, one step at a time. The 3 cases we have covered today are worth learning about, as you never know what kind of horror stories might be hidden just under your noses. Literally.
Yeah. Alright, man. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, dude, but we about to break it down. The first one, that man was killed by somebody for some reason, and hospital and the police are in on it together. I don't know how it works over there in South Africa. I really don't, but I could tell you, it just, from my personal opinion, it sounds like he was killed for some reason. Maybe mistaken identity, maybe, I don't know, but he was on the roof, he was in the roof above, under a room that only hospital staff could access. So that's an inside job right there. And they never asked to see security tapes. They never really questioned anybody. I don't think they went through any of that. And then the second man, the freaking SFPD dropped the ball. And that man probably they just dropped the ball, man. I can't say if that man would still be alive or not, but I think he would have. I think he would have. Or he wouldn't have been missing that long. His family could have had closure sooner. You know? And the third one, that is crazy, dude. There's gonna be an epic newsline about that, for real. But I'm gonna wrap this one up. Y'all been great. Y'all, I don't even know what I want to say right now. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Thanks for watching. Sorry it's a very long video. And y'all been great. Peace, one love.